The recent deployment of Russian and Chinese troops on the Syrian border in support of Gaza, Palestine, has sparked widespread concern and alarm, particularly in the already volatile Middle East. This military reinforcement has added a new layer of complication to the long-running Israel-Palestine conflict, heightening tensions and drawing Israel's condemnation. To grasp the gravity of this development, it's critical to first understand the historical context of the Israel-Palestine conflict, as well as the motivations driving Russia and China's intervention. This move not only changes the immediate dynamics of the region, but it also has potential ramifications for the parties involved, as well as the broader geopolitical landscape. The presence of these troops carries the weight of historical alliances and global power plays, and it has the potential to significantly shift the balance of power in the Middle East, necessitating careful consideration of the long-term implications. The conflict between Israel and Palestine is one of the most enduring and intractable in modern history. It began in the late 19th century, when Zionist settlers began to immigrate to Palestine, which was then under Ottoman rule. With the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948, the conflict erupted during the 20th century, displacing hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. Numerous wars, intifadas, and peace talks have failed to bring the conflict to a permanent resolution. The central issue is one of competing national aspirations. The situation is further complicated by the status of Jerusalem, control over territories, and ongoing Israeli settlements in the West Bank, with Israelis seeking self-determination in their historical homeland and Palestinians demanding statehood and the right of return for refugees. The conflict has caused enormous suffering and loss of life, as well as having far-reaching consequences for the region's stability. Russia and China have different reasons for deploying troops near the Syrian border to support Gaza, Palestine. Russia has had a long-standing relationship with Syria, dating back to the Soviet era. Russia's military intervention in Syria during the civil war has solidified its presence in the region in recent years. Moscow has strategic interests in the Middle East, such as access to Mediterranean ports and political influence in the region. Furthermore, Russia has been a vocal critic of Israeli policies in the Palestinian territories, particularly its West Bank settlement expansion. Moscow's support for the Palestinian cause is consistent with its overarching goal of establishing itself as a key player in the region's affairs. China, while not traditionally involved in Middle Eastern conflicts, has been increasing its global influence. Its Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, seeks to improve connectivity and trade between Asia, Europe, and Africa. Given its geographic location and energy resources, the Middle East is an essential component of this initiative. China also has economic interests in the region, such as investments in infrastructure and energy projects. China seeks to strengthen its diplomatic ties with the Arab world and protect its investments in the Middle East by supporting Palestine. The deployment of Russian and Chinese troops near its border has sparked outrage in Israel, which sees it as a direct threat to its security and sovereignty. This development raises several concerns and challenges for Israel. The presence of foreign troops on the Syrian border increases Israel's security risks. It is concerned that these troops will provide support to militant groups operating in Gaza, resulting in increased hostilities along its southern border. Israel is already facing diplomatic difficulties as a result of its policies in the Palestinian territories. The deployment of troops in support of Palestine by two major world powers further isolates Israel on the international stage, making it difficult for it to gain international support. Israel has a complicated relationship with Russia, particularly in regards to Syria. As it navigates this new geopolitical landscape, Israel may be forced to carefully balance its relations with Russia and its traditional ally, the United States. The presence of Russian and Chinese troops may have an impact on peace talks between Israelis and Palestinians. The deployment could embolden Palestinians in their quest for independence and complicate future negotiations. The deployment of Russian and Chinese troops near the Syrian border in support of Gaza, Palestine, has serious implications for the parties involved, as well as the larger geopolitical landscape. The Middle East is already a region riven with tensions and conflicts. The presence of foreign troops on Syria's border could aggravate existing rivalries, potentially bringing in other regional actors. The United States, Israel's close ally, will most likely closely monitor and respond to this situation. It could seek to counterbalance Russia and China's influence in the region, complicating an already complex geopolitical puzzle. Peace talks between Israelis and Palestinians have suffered numerous setbacks over the years. The deployment of foreign troops may either stymie these efforts or force the parties to reconsider their strategies, potentially opening up new channels of communication. This deployment represents a convergence of interests in the Middle East between Russia and China. The two countries have been cooperating more on global issues, and this trend may deepen their partnership in the region. Russia and China's increased presence in the Middle East could exacerbate regional instability. Israel may perceive this as a direct threat and respond with military action, potentially sparking a larger regional conflict. The international community, including the United Nations, has the potential to play a critical role in mediating this situation. Diplomatic efforts to address Israel's concerns and facilitate dialogue between Israel and Palestine may be launched, and keep the Russian and Chinese presence from escalating into a military conflict. Given China's growing economic interests in the Middle East, diplomatic pressure may be used to persuade Beijing to use its influence to promote regional stability and dialogue. Economic incentives and sanctions could influence China's policy. Regional players such as Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and the United Arab Emirates may intervene to mediate and diffuse tensions. Their influence over Palestine, as well as their relationships with both Israel and Russia, could be used to promote a peaceful resolution. In light of the new geopolitical realities, Israel may need to reconsider its strategic approach. This could include fortifying alliances with other regional powers like Saudi Arabia and the UAE, as well as exploring alternative diplomatic channels. The presence of foreign troops near Gaza could either exacerbate or alleviate the region's humanitarian issues. International organizations should prioritize efforts to address the Palestinian people's urgent humanitarian needs. As a key player in the region, the United States will play a critical role in shaping the outcome of this crisis. It may need to engage in diplomatic efforts to balance its support for Israel with the need to keep relations with Russia and China stable. The presence of Russian and Chinese troops near the Syrian border has ramifications far beyond the Middle East. It reflects the changing global order, in which major powers such as Russia and China are increasingly asserting their influence in areas once dominated by the United States. The presence of Russian and Chinese troops in Gaza, Palestine, highlights the transition to a multipolar world order. While the U.S. remains the dominant player, Russia and China's assertiveness in the Middle East demonstrates their growing global influence. The United States has traditionally served as the primary mediator in Middle Eastern conflicts, and it continues to serve as the primary mediator in the current conflict, particularly concerning Israel and Palestine. The involvement of Russia and China challenges U.S. influence and may result in a realignment of regional alliances. The deployment complicates international diplomacy. Major powers such as Russia and China can wield significant influence over regional conflicts, resulting in a more complex web of negotiations and alliances. The Middle East is an important global energy production and transportation hub. The presence of foreign troops in the region may raise concerns about energy market stability, potentially affecting global energy security and prices. Russia and China's actions in the Middle East could set a precedent for their involvement in other conflict zones around the world. Other nations involved in ongoing conflicts may closely monitor their willingness to deploy troops in support of their interests. The deployment of Russian and Chinese troops on the Syrian border in support of Gaza, Palestine, has sent shockwaves throughout the Middle East, particularly in Israel. The historical context of the Israel-Palestine conflict, combined with the motivations of Russia and China, highlights the situation's complexities. The implications of this move go beyond the immediate region, affecting global geopolitics and the pursuit of Middle Eastern peace. While it is unclear how this development will play out, one thing is certain. The volatile landscape of the Middle East has become even more complex, and finding a peaceful and long-term solution to the Israel-Palestine conflict has become an even greater challenge. The world is watching with bated breath as the consequences of this deployment play out. Thank you for sticking with me all the way to the end. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure the notification bell is turned on so you don't miss a video.